This is the northern edge of the Philippines, the Batanes group of islands. A remote chain of windswept cliffs, rolling hills, and rugged coasts, perched closer to Taiwan than to Manila. To most, Batanes is a quiet frontier, but to strategists, it's the front line. Here, hidden among fishing villages and green ridges, the Philippines is quietly building a stronghold, a network of forward bases that could shape the balance of power in the Pacific. Why does this matter? How is establishing a stronghold at this area beneficial? This is the Luzon Strait, a stretch of water separating the Philippines from Taiwan. This may look like an empty patch of sea on the map, but in reality, it is one of the most important maritime highways in the world. Every day, massive container ships, oil tankers, and undersea cables pass through this corridor. For China, it is a lifeline. Every warship, every submarine, every ship carrying food, oil, and raw materials bound for the Pacific must squeeze through these waters. That's why the Luzon Strait is often called the northern gate of the South China Sea. Control it, and you don't just monitor traffic. You hold the key to China's access to the wider ocean. For years, this passage was left virtually undefended, a gap in the first island chain. But now, the Philippines is beginning to change that, transforming its northern frontier into a shield that can no longer be ignored. In 2023, the Philippines deepened its alliance with the United States through the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA. 4 new sites were added, and 3 of them are aimed directly at the northern frontier. First, Lalo Airport in northern Cagayan. On the banks of the Cagayan River, this modern civilian airport was initially designed for international flights. Its 2-kilometer runway is long enough to host C-130s and C-17 cargo planes, as well as fighter plane rotations with only a few minor upgrades. What makes Lalo especially valuable is its location. Just inland from the northern coastline, it offers a secure hub for logistics, troop movement, and disaster relief operations. In a crisis, it could serve as a dispersal point for Allied aircraft, spreading out forces to make them harder to target. U.S. servicemen out of the 10th Medical Field Hospital Unit established facilities for storage, barracks, and possible hangars for helicopter maintenance in the future. Second, Naval Base Camilo Osias in Santa Ana, Cagayan. Perched on the far northeastern tip of Luzon, this Philippine Navy base faces directly into the Luzon Strait. Historically a small and modest facility, Camilo Osias Naval Base is now earmarked for upgrades under EDCA. New piers, bigger ramps, and storage facilities that will allow larger patrol vessels and supply ships to dock, rearm, and resupply. From here, the Philippine Navy can project maritime patrols, launch sovereignty missions, and even host allied naval detachments. It's not a massive fleet anchorage, but as a forward node, it ties directly into the broader sea denial strategy of the first island chain defense. Third, the Batanes Forward Operating Base in Mahatao. This is the crown jewel. Nestled on the island chain closest to Taiwan, the AFP formally activated this base in 2024, built around existing facilities near Basco Airport. It provides a staging point for maritime domain awareness patrols, humanitarian response, and joint training with allies. What makes Mahatao so critical is its geography. At less than 200 kilometers from Taiwan, aircraft and patrol craft can be on station in minutes. It's the Philippines' northernmost shield, a place where Filipino troops stand watch over one of the most contested sea lanes in the world. Together, Lalo Airport, Camilo Osias Naval Base, and Mahatao Forward Operating Base form the spearhead of the Philippines' northern defense line, a layered network of runways, piers, and forward positions that were unthinkable just a decade ago. For Washington, these northern Philippine bases are more than just dots on a map. They're a strategic jackpot. By working through the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, the United States gains access to airfields, piers, and storage sites already positioned at the edge of the Luzon Strait. That forward access slashes response time to Taiwan or the wider Western Pacific. Surveillance aircraft can launch closer to the action. Logistics convoys can move troops and supplies without sailing or flying from Guam or Okinawa. Even humanitarian flights headed for storm-hit islands or earthquake zones can get airborne faster and at a moment's notice from these outposts. Much of the funding shaping this transformation comes from the Pentagon's Pacific Deterrence Initiative, a multi-billion-dollar program meant to strengthen a network of distributed bases across the Indo-Pacific. Instead of sinking resources into a single massive garrison that could be targeted, Washington helps modernize existing Philippine facilities, resurfacing runways, adding fuel and ammunition storage, building radar shelters, and pre-positioning emergency gear. The result is a partnership that offers both reach and resiliency. For the U.S., it means a web of low-profile but highly capable launch points, difficult for any rival to neutralize in one strike. For the Philippines, it brings funding, infrastructure, and training that upgrade local communities while sharpening national defense. At a fraction of the cost of traditional megabases, these sites give the Philippine military and its allies the ability to surge aid, gather intelligence, or mount deterrence missions, all while keeping their footprint light and adaptive. So, is the U.S. in command of these bases? Quick answer, no. Make no mistake, these are Philippine bases. The Philippine government and the armed forces of the Philippines keep full control and sovereignty over every runway, pier, military assets, and personnel. What EDCA provides is access and investment, not ownership, and the benefits are clearly visible on the ground. Runways and piers once left to weather and rust are being modernized with U.S. funding. Local contractors are resurfacing airstrips, upgrading fuel depots, and building shelters for patrol craft. Those projects create jobs and new skills in provinces in the communities that rarely see this level of infrastructure spending. For the armed forces of the Philippines, these upgrades translate into real capability. Faster resupply for remote garrisons, sturdier docks for Navy boats, and a stronger deterrent posture against anyone tempted to test Philippine waters. They're also dual-use platforms. The same ramps and warehouses that store military gear can pivot overnight to support typhoon relief, medical evacuations, or airlifts of food and water after an earthquake. For the Philippines, it's more than just a military program. It's an engine for resilience, stronger defense, stronger communities, and a clearer signal that this archipelago is ready to stand firm on its own shores. Yet, there are risks. Some local leaders worry that their quiet towns could become targets in a future war. The risks of civilians living close to the bases are high in an event of a crisis. Others ask if EDCA hands too much influence to Washington, or if sovereignty is being traded for security. But in reality, these bases do the opposite. They extend and strengthen sovereignty. They plant the Philippine flag on the nation's northern frontier in places once left undefended and exposed. They turn empty airfields and neglected piers into symbols of national presence. And they give Manila a choice that every sovereign nation must face: stand undefended or stand ready. That readiness carries a message. Guardians of the Northern Gate, that is what these bases represent. Not massive fortresses bristling with missiles, but a smart, resilient network designed for the realities of modern conflict. A network that can scatter aircraft across runways, shift ships between ports, and keep the archipelago connected even under pressure. It is also a signal of change. For decades, the Philippines was caught reacting to crises, always on the back foot, always scrambling. Today, it is writing a different story. No longer reactive, but proactive. No longer silent, but shaping the future of Pacific defense alongside allies. The Luzon Strait is no longer a gap in the first island chain. It is a shield, built by Filipinos, strengthened by allies, and ready for whatever comes next.